there will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, banks.
Bitcoin is punk rock. Deal with it. You split, we bankrupt you.
Do you use Lightning wallets to pay for things or not?
No.
Bitcoin Cash would be seen as more of a threat to the United States hegemony than Bitcoin.
Miles Town, what's your favorite kind of money?
Bitcoin Cash.
Cash podcast following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 40, Bitcoin and the World Economic Forum, featuring George. Today's Saturday, the 26th of February, 2022. And my guest, busy adjusting his microphone, is a long time and very good mate of mine, a very early Bitcoiner and an Australian expatriate as well. Welcome to the show, George. How you doing and how do you get into Bitcoin?
I'm doing well, man. You got me into Bitcoin.
That's... I was going to ask, do you remember the first? I remember the first trend.
Yeah. No, I think I remember sitting on your couch. You were really hyped up. I think it was like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah. And
you were sending me some. I downloaded like my Mycelium wallet, I think.
I think it was Multibit. Well, I was using Multibit. You might have had. It was on your laptop, right? Like we didn't. I don't think it was even mobile wallets. It was literally. I had the Multibit client, and you did too, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, yeah. I assume it was on phone, but yeah, maybe. Anyway, it was a while ago.
Yeah,
I do remember. Yeah,
early 2014, right?
That was a long time ago, man.
Yeah, a lot has changed. A lot has changed since then in crypto and the world. And just for the listeners, so in that amount of time, you know, how much do you follow Bitcoin, right? Obviously, you hear me spouting off about it like all the time. But are you regularly involved in the scene yourself? Would you say, or?
I'm definitely not. I mean, I was definitely like very interested in it, 2014, 2015. And then, the price wasn't doing much, once you've kind of read some of it, you don't really need to read it again, and it kind of dropped off. So I haven't really paid much attention to it other than what you've been telling me. So
yeah,
I don't really follow it religiously or anything like that.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm up to date with Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, the situation, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I mean, we've definitely had over the years. We've had a lot of incidental stuff with giving mates crypto, and there was those Bitcoin ATMs in Australia that were really big for a while. We definitely tried to use some of them, and then they all vanished because Bitcoin ATMs is a terrible business model. At least in Australia and probably in most places in the world. I don't know. It's been a lot of things now, but here we are in 2022. 8 years later. Anyway, first up today, this week, I'm making an announcement. I will post the link for this, after the show, and it'll be in the description. But Luke Pryor and I are hosting a Bitcoin Cash meme competition. We thought the community could just use a bit of entertainment, and what's more entertaining than people competing to win money, basically. So there's going to be 3 prizes: 750 milli BCH, 325 milli BCH, and 175 milli BCH for the first top 3, as judged by Luke and I. So that's going to be on episode 42. So this is episode 40. So it won't be the next one; it'll be the one after. So there's time for everybody to, get their submissions in. The deadline will be on the 10th of March. So you've got like more than 2 weeks, got plenty of time to get on and do it. But there is a document with all the rules and guidelines and conditions and everything. And I will tweet that out afterwards. So I'm actually thinking I might have to ban you from competing, mate. It would be a conflict of interest, I think, if you got a submission in.
I'm probably not going to put a submission in, but there you go.
Okay, well,
meme review with the boys.
Yeah, so maybe you can give me your opinion on what you think is the funniest. But it's basically just completely up to us as to which ones we like or don't like. Is pretty much the guidance, but it'll be funny for the community anyway. And there is nearly 1.5 BCH on the line. So from spending 20 seconds making a meme, that's that's pretty good value for money. If you end up getting in the mix there. All right. So the price recently, the market kind of a bit bearish. It's down a little bit earlier today, about $315 USD per BCH. One BTC buys 122.5 BCH. So BCH slightly up in that ratio. But all this week, it's been BCH has been between rank 28 and 24. And it just kind of comes to this theme that I say a little bit, that, you know, in a bear market, BCH does better than you'd think, because the other coins kind of slowly drop away as the market like washes out, and some of the coins are a bit scammier or don't have as much of a real community. They kind of drop off, but BCH is seemingly always in a bear market, so it's kind of got natural resistance to that. But yeah, I mean, you said you don't really follow it all as actively. Do you follow the price much? How do you deal with the volatility and all that?
I don't follow price at all, really. I've kind of got some BCH stashed, and yeah, just kind of don't really look at it. Don't really
Unaffected, hodling.
I just don't look at it at all. I mean, I've got some BTC as well, so
Yeah, I was gonna ask,
I don't look at either.
What's your other coins? Do you have BTC, BCH? Do you have any others? Do you have some Ethereum?
I got a bit of BTC, got a bit of BCH, a little bit of Ethereum. Only
Stellar Lumens.
Stellar
You were
Lumens.
pretty hype on them for a while.
Stellar Lumens, I think I bought like $50 like back in like 2017, 18, something like that. That was a bad decision, but anyway, I don't think they've done anything good. Got some Doge bonk. I'm in there, you know.
Oh yeah.
A bit of bonking with the Braves. I think that'll come good. I'm pretty bullish on Doge bonk. What else? I got some I think it's like, was it XRP, something like that? Yeah.
Don't.
But
Is that another 2017 purchase?
Yeah, that's the most disappointing.
this
of
is
the list so far.
but you know, like $50 here and there. That's about the limit of it. So yeah.
Jeremy, I
Alright,
might
so-
have one that is worse.
Yeah. Which
Back when I first got into crypto, I took a great big interest in IOTA. I was like, wow, this looks great. And since
I
then,
love IOTA too. Yeah.
man,
I've got
the
big
network has
IOTAs
been
as well,
completely frozen like a half dozen times. It's, yeah, shit.
I definitely had some IOTA at one point, because what they did was they did a really good job of making it sound like they had the next greatest technology at a time where people weren't already accustomed to every single coin claiming to be the next best, like, futurist technology. That was more in the era where Litecoin was like, we made the block times a bit quicker, and everyone was like, huge innovation. And Ethereum had done basically nothing. So everybody was like, wow, this is still cutting edge. And then when it was, guys, we've got a new graph, the DAG, that was what it was. I don't think barely anybody could explain how that worked or why it was better, but everyone was loving it. I was like, and it kind of also, it was a bit more UTXO model. So it sort of made more sense from scalability, that if everybody was confirming a transaction in order to put in another transaction, it's actually similar to Nano now I think about it. Nano is sort of on that same level, and it's also sort of struggling with those same arguments of like, we're so much better, but actually nobody cares because you're not better. There's just more subtle problems involved in doing it that way, basically. So, all right, well, there we go. And well, what are your top picks? I guess we've just heard them all. You know, you
Top picks. I think none of them are top picks right now. Like,
you're bearish on crypto as a whole.
if you're trying to make money, like, I don't know what you should do. Like, I don't know, go gold panning or something. Like, it's not the time. Like, yeah, I mean, stock up now, I guess,
Yeah,
while everything's low. But yeah,
crypto winter. All right, so next up, we've got the cent in USD across the network. The BCH whale that came back quickly and does, 4 or 5 billion a day in BCH has once again departed and hasn't been seen from in the last couple of weeks. So the graph now looks pretty flat for BCH, but if you actually zoom in and look at it, it is doing it, between 100 and 200 million per day, which is pretty nice. And BTC has not really been kicking off or doing any amazing amount of transactions there either. So it's not like we're fallen out of relevance or something, but standing well, it then vanished and then came back and then vanished again. I'm still totally at a loss and just hoping that one day I'll get a guest on the show who says I'm the whale, or like I've got the insider knowledge. Maybe we need more industry contacts before we get that info. I don't really know, man. It's the biggest mystery of this.
The whale is
show.
just someone dumping a whole bunch of.
Well, it can't be because it's
what?
not. Yeah, well, it's somebody who sends $4 billion of BCH every day, consistently every day for months on end, and is not just constantly crashing the price, right? It has to be like an exchange settling up to its different wallets or something.
It's just some guy having a laugh, sending it to himself.
Yeah, just wants to inflate the stats, but got a bit bored recently. Didn't automate it. Just thought,
I'll just do it
Now it's
whenever I
not
feel like
happening.
it. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's not impossible.
yeah,
Fees are low.
yeah, exactly. Is that well? On the cost of anything. I mean, they could do the same. I often wonder if Michael Saylor might do a bit of that on the old BTC chain himself to just ramp up the hype. I'm sure he can afford a couple dollars in fees. But I also feel like once you've got a few $1 million in your crypto sitting there, they don't want to send it around, because if you just mistype one letter or something, then you just send it all off into the abyss. So it sort of seems like you'd want to be more conservative with your crypto action at that point. All right, so first topic this week is the so-called Crypto Bowl. This was actually a little while ago, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet, which is the Super Bowl 56. The Rams beat the Bengals. I don't know any more about it than that. I'm not really an NFL type of person. I didn't follow it at all, but it was super hype in the lead up. Everybody was like, wow, crypto's in vogue, NFTs, all this kind of thing is going big. So, and we're now in an era where, especially after the bull run last year, loads of crypto companies, especially exchanges. I mean, there's different kinds of crypto companies, but exchanges in particular are the ones raking in the money on all this speculative mania. So they had tons of money. And of course, the most well-known sort of advertising gimmick in the world is to get a Super Bowl ad, which is, of course, horrendously expensive. So it's the quoted rate that was about $7 million per 30 seconds of ad time. So each of these 5 companies, which ran a crypto ad, spent over $10 million each on these ads. So you had FTX, Coinbase, Crypto.com, eToro, and BitBuy. My personal opinion was that the BitBuy, eToro, and Crypto.com ads all sucked. They were super boring, and I just sort of thought, look, guys, you spent $7 million on this airtime. I think you could have spent $1,000 on getting a high school kid to write you a cooler script or something. It was literally just like, crypto is the future, like buy in now kind of thing. It was really lame.
Yeah, it was pretty lackluster.
And but I don't know who. I feel like if you're gonna put 7 million on the line or 10 million or whatever, you've got to take a stab at something, right? It's got to be funny or shocking or quirky or whatever. If you've just paid $10 million, especially with the Super Bowl, because it's such a known thing as Super Bowl ads, that you have to, it's not just like an infomercial. Call now, $9.99. Like everybody's just that's already a fail. Like that's not going to get anybody's attention in the Super Bowl. But the last two were all right, and they were so Coinbase and FTX. Personally, the FTX one was my favorite, which was they got Larry David of what's that show called again?
Multiple shows.
No, but
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's what I was saying. Yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm fame, who's always like a skeptical guy. They did a quality ad where it was just him, all throughout history, like, the guy who invented the wheel showing it to him and him saying that sucks, and then finding the invention of the light bulb and saying that sucks, and the invention of the fork and that sucks, and he says like, everything sucks and it's never going to work, all these great ideas, and then of course the joke is at the end it's crypto, and he says, yeah, that's never going to work, and the don't be like Larry was the sort of finishing message. I thought that was pretty funny and pretty clever, actually, because it sort of suits Larry David. I mean, a lot of the Super Bowl ads do tend to have some sort of celebrity in them, and it's pretty funny because it's probably accurate. He probably doesn't really like crypto and doesn't get it. So even though he would be happy to be memed on for being wrong because he's just so meta that he doesn't care, I'm sure it was also still made me laugh, right? I know you're a Curb Your Enthusiasm Larry David fan.
Yeah. No, great show. But yeah, no, it was a great ad, and I mean, enjoyable to watch. The others were all very boring. I mean, even the other one, Coinbase, with the little cube going around the screen. Yeah, no, it wasn't really about that. But I think the problem was, it would have been a great ad for any of the other brands. I mean, the other companies, I think, because I mean, I don't know who FTX is. I've never heard of them. Maybe I'm just unaware. But
well, they're just one of the the third biggest exchange. So there's like Coinbase, Binance, and then FTX. Basically,
it's almost like they don't have enough brand awareness to really have really capitalized on Larry David's fame, whereas the other ones could have been like, well, get into crypto,
where the Larry David and people,
we're Coinbase. Whereas you kind of get to the end of this Larry David ad, and you're like, oh, that was an ad by Larry David. Wait, who was it for? I'm not sure. True. Whereas I think the others have a bit more. Well, I've heard of eToro and Crypto.com and Coinbase, so they kind of had shitty ads, but
you still know who they are. So
yeah,
it was a complete loop.
So they didn't do. I feel like their ads weren't great, but then FTX's wasn't really probably great for them. I don't know. Maybe they're seeing some huge uptick.
Well, I obviously I know who FTX are, but you're right. They're known because they have done a lot of sports sponsorships. Like they've sponsored someone in the NFL, someone in the NBA. I guess they must be going pretty hard in the American kind of market. They get a lot of American, media personalities, and they also sponsor shout out to LR Limited Resources, which we've covered on this show before, the Magic the Gathering podcast, and that's pretty cheeky because that's a pretty niche kind of scene, but for people who love it, they really love it. So that was sort of the FTX ad, which I also thought was the best one. But you're right, it wasn't very FTX specific, as in any of the other companies could have also done it and just changed the logo. Yeah, it would have been the same.
I guess maybe FTX is just more American. I've never heard of it.
Yeah,
I've heard of Coinbase and eToro, and they're very well. They've got a presence in the UK.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just kind of funny, and it just perfectly hit the crypto note, which is the haters. It's been 8 years. You can tell us about that over the years. How many people have you talked to about crypto who told you it was never going to work, right?
I mean, there's a lot of people that said it was just a scam, and don't put your money into it. If you put your money into it, you're going to lose everything, blah 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 blah. I mean, I think basically the opposite has been true. Yeah, if you put in $1,000 in 2014, you're probably doing fairly well now. But yeah, it has definitely just evolved over time with people saying, people just slowly changing their minds. Maybe they're still not into crypto. I don't think it's really at that point yet, but they're less averse to it.
Well, it's getting hard to deny, basically, is that even if it's sort of gone from the point of people actively being against, people were firstly unaware of it, and then they were actively against it or scared of it because people don't like things that are unfamiliar and new. And now it's just slowly over time, it's just filtering into everyone's consciousness. And now, the word Bitcoin is just known, and even the word crypto is known, and even Ethereum is pretty known, so
I think the problem crypto has now is that it doesn't have a use case, in the sense of, not that it doesn't actually have a use case, but it's like it doesn't have a use case for most people most of the time. And so unless you're interested in it, or you've got some libertarian kind of angle going, or you think that it's going to go up and you're going to make a whole bunch of money, then most people are just kind of well, yeah, that's a thing, and I know it's a thing, but I'm not going to really get involved because there's no big motivation to, or there's no push to.
Yeah.
And I guess Bitcoin is in some ways kind of marketed itself well. I mean, whoever has done that, as kind of digital gold, and now they can be well, just buy some Bitcoin and then you'll have your digital gold, just like you would buy some, I don't know, other sort of asset.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, I know kind of a lot of the other ones, I think, kind of struggle to market to the general population for sure.
To differentiate themselves. And I mean, that was sort of an interesting element to it. I mean, $10 million is like a lot of money, right? But there was these, firstly, it was all the exchanges who are the ones who have been the sort of the biggest winners so far. But the other point was no actual like specific coin put an ad in, right? Because it's not impossible, especially some of these more VC backed ones or whatever that have, you know, billions and billions of dollars, that you would see an ad like some Bitcoin whale could be like, I'm just going to run a Bitcoin ad and not a crypto ad, or that somebody could run a Solana or an Avalanche ad or something like that, right? And I think that would be interesting because then that coin would need to have some individual unique selling point that made them the ones to go to. And it would have to be on top of the fact that, you know, you would still need to explain how to get it and stuff like that, which obviously the exchanges, that's kind of what they do, right? So the other second ad that I did also like was the Coinbase ad, and they did the just a black screen with a multicolored QR code bouncing around the screen, which is a callback to The Office. Again, very, very sort of American centric, because if you don't, I guess anybody can say like, oh, I'll just scan this QR code, this is what this is. But unless you knew that scene in The Office where the QR code bounces around and they're waiting for it to hit the exact corner, like you might just be a bit like, what is this? It's
from like a DVD player.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that. Well, I guess it's not everybody. You can also just be too young for this, which is kind of interesting, right? I mean, I remember those DVD player icons and trying to watch it. You know, it's a pretty universal thing. But the actual template, the specific colors and stuff that they use is from that symbol that was on an episode of The Office where they were all waiting for it to hit the exact corner, right? So that was also kind of a part of the joke. By the way, man, just if you're talking to this mic, let me show you.
Oh yeah,
the actual mic is like in this part.
Oh, okay.
In front of where the text is.
Okay. Oh, sure.
I realized I should have told you that from the start.
All good.
Anyway, so yeah, that was the kind of the Coinbase ad, and the Coinbase kind of screwed it up where they had it was the cleverest one, but they also screwed up their execution because loads of people came onto their website and then their website crashed. So they just spent $10 million on their Superbowl ad, and they didn't spend like $100 on buying a new AWS server. So that was kind of a fail on their part, I guess, as well.
It's also interesting that you said before that no coins ran their own ad, but it's interesting that none of these companies really ran the Bitcoin kind of like where for buying Bitcoin.
Yeah,
it was more like where for buying crypto, which is I guess like a few years ago it would have been all about Bitcoin, and that's starting to like shift. You can kind of see. Yeah, and it just goes to show like that's a good point. I didn't even realize that, but it's true. All of them chose to be sort of crypto agnostic, and I mean, it's a big running theme of this show, obviously, that the more people understand like crypto is not just Bitcoin, and sort of everybody needs to pick, and so hopefully Bitcoin Cash will be the one they all end up picking or using, but the more people are aware of that, that's all to the good, right? Because it makes people understand it as an industry, and it makes them think more carefully about which ones do I want and why, how do I judge them, why would any one be going up and down, and all that just indirectly gives people the sense of like, I never used to think about money, and now crypto it's not a choice between I've got my money or Bitcoin. It's a choice between I've got my money or different countries' money or Bitcoin or all these other cryptos. So at some point, you wonder what the hell's going on with this whole circus, and you have to kind of get to the bottom of it, right? And I mean, I was just sort of disappointed that none of these ads none of them showed somebody buying things with crypto, because like you're saying, it hasn't after the block size war, it all got diverted away from being pay with this, like it's not
buy something.
The whole like currency part of cryptocurrency has kind of failed to launch a little bit, got sidetracked. That's for sure. I'm
hoping we're gonna see that over the next couple of years. I think we will, because it's sort of it's a bit of a catch-22, right? Where people, if nobody has crypto, then there's nobody to pay with it. So people, merchants won't adopt it. But if merchants won't adopt it, then people are like, why should I get this? But now there's been enough Ponzi hype that there is actually a significant portion of people who have it. So in that sense, we might see it kind of starting to come through. But it was a bit sad that the whole message of all of these ads was don't miss out. It was sort of fear-based marketing,
Get in before it's too late kind of thing.
Yeah, don't be the last one. I mean, the Larry David was the most clever take on it, but it wasn't, it was still that same premise, and the price didn't react. This is like huge news going out to however many hundreds of millions of people or whatever that are watching the Super Bowl, maybe billions around the world, I don't know. But the price didn't take off. It just was a bit of a non-event. And I would say probably for this exact reason. Like, I'm sure a lot of people got involved as a result, but the world wasn't convinced that crypto is like taken off. And I saw some commentary afterwards with people sort of saying, yeah, okay, crypto's made it to the Super Bowl, but so did a lot of .com companies who then went bust and were just gone the next year,
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be that. It could also be that just most people have at least heard of crypto, and if they haven't gone and like signed up to Coinbase now, then I don't know,
this isn't going to make it happen.
Maybe
Not
a
on a huge scale
Super
anyway.
Bowl ad wasn't what was going to put them over the edge. But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
Just it kind of seems like, yeah, it's not really big news. It's just an ad.
Yeah, we're mainstream now. I think that's, if you said in 2014, crypto going to be on the Super Bowl, it was like, well, it will happen one day. But
I mean, if it happened in 2014, if one of these,
no, in 2014,
it
all
would
I'm
have.
saying is
Then the price would have reacted.
yeah. No, but
Massively
all I'm
so,
saying,
but yeah.
if I had told you in 2014, in 2022, crypto ads will be in the Super Bowl, would you have said likely or unlikely?
I think that would have been. I think we would have said, yeah, that's fair enough. We wouldn't have been like saying that was impossible by any means. I think that was probably likely. Yeah,
8 years. Yeah. Well,
eight years away. Yeah, that's 8 years is a long time,
Yeah.
especially now. Yeah.
So-
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's two things that are important to keep in mind here. One is the exchanges and the users do not have the same incentives. The exchanges make fiat dollars off of every trade between currency pairs. They're not, settling in Bitcoin or whatever. They're settling in USD, right? So them picking a coin, at least in this, like in the current market, would almost be shooting themselves in the foot. But secondly, I think that the if we were in 2014, which was before I even got involved in cryptocurrency at all, right? So, and someone was like, yeah, it'll end up on like a Super Bowl commercial. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, in what context? Like, this is just the state of the market, right? It's just, gamble with us. And I wouldn't be optimistic. I'd be like, okay, yeah, even if it does get on the Super Bowl, I would expect it to be as it is, like just a gambling thing.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't made it there as a pay with this and I think maybe, I'm hopeful that we will see, like, hopefully if, Bitcoin Cash can have a mega year or a mega couple years, in a year's time or 2 years or 3 years or whatever, that some BCH whale could fork out and just go in on a Super Bowl ad and make like a crypto anarchy type of video. I don't know what it would be, right? But some of the classic moments in advertising, like when Apple did that 1984 kind of one, or some of those types of ads.
Even like more mainstream friendly than that. Imagine if Colin Enstad's "It's Just Money Bro" commercial was at the Super Bowl. Like, that is a much more powerful message, I think, than Larry David here.
Larry David, not loving it. But yeah, that's true. I think, and basically a more positive message instead of a sort of fear-based FOMO kind of based one. I mean, that's humanity that naturally kicks in, so obviously the exchanges are going to prey on that. But yeah, it's sort of a bit sad that we had a bit of a negative slant rather than being a positive, optimistic, bringing hope and change. It could have been, well, it was sort of before all this what we're going to get onto now, which is sort of this global politics and the situation. Obviously, we're not going to go in super in depth. We already talked about Canada a couple of weeks ago, and I'm definitely not an expert in that, let alone what's happening now in the Ukraine and Russia. But I sort of want to bring it up because it is kind of the case that the financial system is being used by the big players to shut people out, including shutting each other out. So Canada was obviously censoring people's bank transactions and sort of surveilling them, and Give Send Go was stopping money going to the truckers. And now with what's happened in Ukraine, you've got these sort of economic sanctions falling onto several different people. You've got the Ukrainians themselves who are trying to, get cash out of the ATM. And I read that there was some limits were put on, as to how much money they could take out per day and stuff like that. And then you have also potentially, it's spreading into neighboring areas. So in Poland, I saw, again, I have no confirmation of this, but it seems likely that there were, people under financial uncertainty and under just life uncertainty, want to have physical cash that they know they can rely on. And then you also have the, debate of different countries that want to, sanction Russia, and whether or not they want to cut them off the SWIFT network so that they can't send interbank.
As far as I know, that's
transfers,
been
which
decided.
I don't think they're going to do. They're not going to do it, right?
No, they're. I'm pretty from what
gonna.
I read this morning, as of like midnight tonight, $635 billion or
really?
something gone.
So hang on, what? So they are switching off the SWIFT for Russia, or they
From
aren't?
what I read this morning, but I also, the propaganda's out in full force, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I
Okay. All right.
I heard that there are like some countries were for it and some countries were against it, and they all needed to agree
Here,
or something.
Let me fact check myself right now.
Well, the point is that it all gets very political very quickly, and that the ideal form of money is like a cryptocurrency, especially like Bitcoin, or especially like Bitcoin Cash, is neutral, right? And Vitalik Buterin, who is the co-founder of Ethereum, he was making some tweets, and obviously it's very relevant to him because he is Russian, and he wrote a tweet in support of Ukraine. And then he followed that up immediately afterwards with a tweet that said, a reminder that Ethereum is neutral, but I'm not, right? And the idea was that he wasn't obviously going to go out and be making, claims that Ethereum should be, blocking addresses. Not that they really could, right? But, he wouldn't advocate for Ethereum itself being used as a sort of political weapon, and that it should just be open to everyone, because that's kind of the fundamental principle. But at the same time, the people involved can have their own opinions. So it's very, very important to a crypto network to remain what is often called credibly neutral. That it is just it's apolitical, right? It's not even that it has a stance for freedom or anything. It just has no stance. It's just anyone in the world can use it. It's based on mathematics. Simple as that. The nodes don't filter transactions. They don't, they just operate as intended. They just pass along everyone's transactions. And if you pay a fee, then you're in. That's it. It's as simple as that, right? So,
I mean, in much the same way as $20,
yeah.
$20 bill, you can give it to someone or you don't give it to them. That's about the extent of it. It doesn't stop working if you can't stop it working, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't care. Yeah. What country you're from, what language you speak, what agenda you've got, what you're paying for is not factored into it. You pay them and you pay them, right? And so, yeah, I just want to remind all of the listeners to the show, as I always do, not your keys, not your coins, right? So all of this stuff, all of this censorship resistance and all that, it's only if you are controlling your private keys, because with the Canadians and probably with some of this Ukrainian, situation, whatever, there will be people who will think they're like killing it with their crypto setup and it's uncensored, but then discover that, actually it's just in my Coinbase account, and that didn't work out for me, right? So take custody of your own coins. And if you don't know how to do that, read up and learn, basically. I should have a recommended resource for that. But yeah.
Just as like a quick, my own little fact check there. So there's 3 countries holding on to keep Russia onto SWIFT. France and Germany, because they're afraid that Russia will cut off oil and gas to them. and then Cyprus. But I don't know how much. I know Cyprus was used for like money laundering and stuff. Um, I don't know how I don't know how much volume goes through Cyprus though.
Cyprus has had a bit of a history with crypto because Cyprus was also in 2014 the infamous Neo and B scam went down in Cyprus, where there was a guy called Danny Brewster, and he was running. I don't know how you describe it, but do you remember this whole saga?
I
Vaguely.
remember something vaguely about Cyprus, but yeah, no, not in any detail.
Well, this guy, Danny Brewster, he basically said, look, we're going to set up like a crypto bank pretty much. And they got this kind of office set up. And there was a picture. I don't know if I'll have to try and find that picture or something, but it was super cool of like this building where they had the Bitcoin logo on kind of like a banner out the front, and then they also had the building kind of lit up with some nice lights and everything, and it almost looked like the sort of cathedral of crypto that he had set up there. And it was at a time after there had been haircuts and bank runs going on in Cyprus, so the population was already very hyper aware of all this stuff. So he was and they launched this advertising campaign where their company's colors were yellow and black, which now I think of it is the anarcho-capitalist colors, don't tread on me, Gadsden flag colors. So that might have actually been related. I didn't think of that at the time, but now in hindsight, that makes sense. And they had this whole advertising campaign about who is Neo. It was this kind of mystery thing, like almost a bit Matrix style. Like it was all the elements were in there, right? And so the subreddit Bitcoin was just going off because everybody was like, this is it. It's happening. Crypto's taking over the world. All of Cyprus is going to jump on this because they've just been screwed over by the evil banks. But at the end of the day, of course, it all collapsed into a scam. And Danny Brewster just ran off with a lot of people's money. And some of the locals got scammed. And a lot of the people on our Bitcoin, including myself, got scammed. And
you got scammed.
Yeah, we all learned a harsh lesson. Well, because not only could you buy the Bitcoin with their bank or whatever, you could also invest in the company itself. So they had this thing called Havelock Investments. And I was like, oh, this is just how ridiculous it was in the early days, where everybody was like, oh, not only is it risky enough having my Bitcoins, but I can invest my Bitcoins in a company that has just started and is going to go to the moon because I'm, the only way to buy it is with Bitcoins. Of course, that was all a disaster. And in the modern world, you're not likely to run into that. Now you have Coinbase and FTX promoting at the Superbowl. It's kind of a different league, but anyway, the point is that was all kind of going on back then. And maybe, we're having a bit of a rerun of that same kind of situation, with this time under threat of war rather than just financial disaster. But yeah, I just wanted to really highlight to everybody, not your keys, not your coins, and the importance of this message rising in global prominence as more and more and more people end up in a situation where they are cut off from the banking system, or they're not able to send money internationally. There's been huge, not uprising is not the right word, but interest in the crypto online of people saying, hey, how can I send to Ukraine? How can I donate? Donating to charities and different causes has always been a cornerstone of crypto for that censorship resistance, right since the Julian Assange in 2011. So you are seeing some of that kind of going on as well there too. Carrying on, so the next thing is in the backdrop of all this stuff that is going on in the macro world, I wanted to take a moment to touch on the actual Bitcoin Cash community itself. And just recently, I feel like we've been sort of quietly killing it a little bit. So, obviously there was a lot of drama in Bitcoin Cash. There was a lot of negativity and so on from 2017 to 2020. And at the start of 2021, I started this show because I thought the community was going to turn over a new leaf, but it was still a bit rocky. 3 to 6 months ago, you could still see loads of posts online with everybody saying, oh no, it's the end. Bitcoin Cash is just dropping into irrelevance. I'm selling out, blah, 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 right? There's always somebody who's having a nice throw their hands up and dramatically storm out of the room for attention type of moment. But I'm obviously not really a big believer in any of that sort of negativity, and I think the community is actually starting to turn it around. So from the start of this year, a bunch of flip starters have been funded. So for people who don't know, Bitcoin Cash has a decentralized version of Kickstarter and crowdfunding. So people can put up a request to the community to get Bitcoin Cash, and if their proposal is good and enough people donate money, then they get funded. And if they don't, well, they don't. So Mark Falzon had a massive one of the biggest probably there's ever been for 823, I think, BCH recently, which got funded. Yeah, it's like nearly 300,000 US dollars. It was 250,000, but the price has risen since then. BCH Latam, Bitcoin Out Loud, the Freedom Convoy for the Canadian truckers, Bitcoin Verde got one funded to improve Flipstarter itself, so that it is even easier for people to donate in these campaigns. And there's been more as well too, right? So the community does actually have a lot of different projects and a lot of things quietly spinning up in the background, and people are funding these campaigns because they still believe in the project, and people are still using it as peer-to-peer money. You've got Smart BCH hit all-time highs for daily transactions, doing more than 2 transactions a second a couple of days ago, and you have the sort of adoption efforts particularly in St. Kitts and Nevis and these other Caribbean islands, but also in Townsville in Venezuela. That's all still looking great. There's no drama in the dev community. I'm feeling actually very, very, very positive about Bitcoin Cash. And I also wanted to kind of get your take, because you said to me a few days ago, you said, oh man, Bitcoin Cash is actually looking pretty good, which caught me off guard because I'm always telling you about it. But then you sort of, unprompted told me you thought it was looking good as well too.
So I say that? I must have read something or something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
There was no specific like news or anything that triggered that, or
I can't remember. I think it was in relation to the Canadians freezing all of those accounts, and I was like, yeah, no, this is its time to shine. Well, I don't know if it really did that, but yeah, that's there's definitely a need there for it, and I was like, yeah. Whereas some of those other cryptos, sending money, that's a bit hard. That's a bit expensive.
What do you want your crypto coin to do? Send money? Never heard of that. That's definitely not it. And I just wanted to give that message out to the community, I guess, because to me it's really really important to understand the sort of the cycle where a coin will go into a lot of drama and it'll have a lot of problems, but that's decentralization, right? It just works itself out over time, and it takes time, and it takes hard work, and it is often painful in terms of the price declining and so on and so forth. So BCH has been through some hard times, and while I'm not super bullish on the price of crypto as a whole, or even the BCH particularly, just because I can feel it can get a bit dragged down by the broader market, but things are actually looking really good, and I think it's in contrast to some other coins at the moment. So Dash recently have been having drama over there. They actually have a CEO, which is, I don't know about that in a decentralized currency. And they would say, well, it's a decentralized currency, but then there's a CEO of this one company called Dash Core Group. But the fact of the matter is basically he's involved in a lot of the center of what's going on, and they have all this sort of political drama amongst themselves, right? And so it's just kind of goes to show, there's a very big difference between a community that is quiet and happily working on being productive versus one that's turning into drama. And another one that's turning into drama right now is Bitcoin BTC. So I also want to touch on that. So this is where the title of the episode comes from, this World Economic Forum angle on the next slide, which is that the BTC community in the last few days have sort of got the idea that maybe they have been a little bit compromised in terms of their sort of community structure and stuff like that. And what seems to have kicked it off is that Lightning Labs, which is the company that develops the Lightning Network, which is the perpetual supposed savior of the Bitcoin network and its ability to be used as payments, long derided by Bitcoin Cashers, got listed on the homepage, I guess, of the World Economic Forum, who depends how deep you go into all this stuff, but it's essentially this organization run by this guy Klaus Schwab, who's a German businessman who's mega rich, and he has spent the last years, basically the last decades,
Who knows?
implanting into world governments,
Infiltrating, implanting. What was his other word?
what was he's I don't know, he has some specific way of saying it, where he's put people into these governments so that they will basically listen to him and follow his agenda, which included this whole plan around the coronavirus called the Great Reset, which was this big conspiracy, but it's now just he's published a book about it, and you can read his exact plan of attack himself. So this has recently been coming up on Joe Rogan as well. So we've got a little clip here from a good episode that came out very recently from Majid Nawaz, who was on the Joe Rogan Experience, to give a little bit of kind of background. And I do recommend everybody listen to this episode if they have the chance. So hopefully Jet can line us up with that clip. Yeah.
Though on his, you'll see it, our teams are now embedded in governments around the world. That's actually what they wrote.
Yes.
And the video is 2 minutes. I didn't play all of it. It's what he says.
But what he's saying there sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Figuring out on strategic ways to end the lockdown easily.
No,
that
not
makes sense.
Not the end of the lockdown. No.
Well, didn't he say that?
Yeah. Keep in mind, Tony Blair is the one who's been advocating for vaccine passports, digital identification through COVID, and all of these measures.
But didn't they say that about ending the lockdowns and keeping businesses?
Once those measures are in place. Right, so he's even in the UK. His stance has been, we're going to get out of all it, but you have to have digital ID, and you have to have. So during the war,
this is going to introduce the social credit score system.
Right. So, all of that came from your question, which is, regardless of intention, how do people do that infiltration from within? It's not just Twitter. So back to the psychological operations. It's also embedding people in government who are subscribed to this agenda. Yeah, and the agenda of Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum is the same as the agenda of Tony Blair in this regard. They call it, on their own website, they call it the Great Reset. That's what they say themselves.
Yeah, that's a bizarre thing to do, openly. Why do you think they openly discuss it that way? And openly, because the Great Reset has always been this gigantic conspiracy theory among the online folks. Like, this is all part of the Great Reset. Well, when he wrote a fucking book called The Great Reset, you're like, hey, man, shouldn't you be hiding this?
And in 2017 at Harvard, he's saying, we're going to basically, all of these world leaders will penetrate their cabinets with our young global leaders. He's open about this. He's open. Blair's open. During the Iraq War, Blair tried to bring in ID cards in Britain. He failed. Now he's back, and he's trying to bring in digital ID during COVID, right? So they're open about it.
So this is going to be this never-ending process to slowly move the goalposts
towards more and more authoritarianism. Checkpoint society. It's all there. They told us this.
People have to realize this, right? This is important.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, essentially, like I say, I'm no expert in this, and everybody can do their own research into this. But of course, Bitcoiners, both BTC and BCH side, and crypto more generally, is justifiably very, very paranoid about the power structures of the world. So with Lightning Labs now getting listed on the homepage here, it sent this huge alarm bells into the BTC community that what is going on here? What's the story? Why are these big money players sneakily infiltrating our scaling solution? And of course, this was no surprise at all to the Bitcoin Cash community, who had pointed this out as getting funded by these guys, and they were obviously trying to restrict the scaling, and it was destroying the momentum of the community and all that. But I guess some of the more naive people are now sort of starting to get the message a little bit. And we're in this position now where, so you have not only that, but Lightning Labs lied about it. They were, immediately under questioning, and the CEO, I think, whose name is Elizabeth Stark, she said, "We don't know anything about this. They just did it without talking to us." But that was proven to be a lie because her account had previously been liking the posts announcing them as partners, years ago, and that had been, forgotten or swept under the rug. But now it's coming back into focus, and this World Economic Forum is also getting involved in Coinbase and CoinDesk, which is a big promoter of cryptocurrency news, and even the Ethereum Foundation as well. Well, obviously central to what's going on in Ethereum. So all of these things are just definitely adding up, and you're at a point where you have a lot of Bitcoiners who are sort of have come to the crypto scene over the last 3 or 4 years, and they've got the message about being paranoid of government interference and being self-sovereign and trust don't verify and all that stuff. And they're just for the first time maybe getting a hint of like, wait a second, is this happening in Bitcoin too? Which is what the Bitcoin Cash side have been saying since before there was a Bitcoin Cash community, really. But the lie is basically starting to get too big, that Bitcoin has not been infiltrated and kind of corrupted from the inside. And I mean, that was already obvious from anybody who could read the white paper and just try the coins out, but a lot of people don't do that. So now it's kind of, the alarm bells are starting to ring. And I guess for me, the point is that once you have parasites in the system, it's basically impossible to get them out. So I think probably in large part, the BTC community will sort of turn a blind eye to this as time goes on. They'll sort of try and forget, but the fact of the matter is they've been kind of captured, and that's why they haven't that's why it is these crypto ads, right? It's not the Bitcoin ads, because Bitcoin has lost its point of dominance, because it's had its heels kind of legs cut out from under it, right? So you do also have at the same time the Corey Fields, who is one of the current developers, who is right now contributing to Bitcoin. He is also contributing to this thing called Project Hamilton, which is a central bank digital currency project that I think was announced it was in America. We might have to do a separate episode about that, because there's a lot to be said about that. But essentially, governments are starting to ramp up their efforts to get into crypto as well too, and produce their own centralized, controlled alternative that, like we were saying about the $20, where you can't just hand it over to someone. Actually, if they don't like what you're doing, you just can't send it at all, or it gets destroyed, right? You have your savings, and then the government thinks you better go out and spend your money, so it starts burning your money, while you're trying to hold on to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the scariest part about all this. The government controlled currencies, well, the government controlled cryptos especially.
Yeah,
because you can kind of get around it at the moment, I guess. Yeah, cash, but yeah, no, I'm surprised that this is like even news for the Bitcoin people. Like, I would have thought that was super obvious. Like, if you've got these kind of companies that are out to make money, and they're, in there volunteering to like help your like independent project, you're like, wait a second, how are they making money out of this? It's yeah, I mean, I would have thought they would be a bit more switched on about all of that, but apparently not. I guess if you're not paying attention, like,
wasn't it like in 2015 that Gavin Andreessen had a visit from the CIA?
No, it was much earlier than that. It was in, I think, it was in 2011, I think, that Gavin went to see the CIA. So it was I'm trying to remember. I don't know. I won't get it right if I pick a side, but it was either shortly before or shortly after Satoshi left the project. Probably because they realized the CIA is getting involved. Like, things are heating up.
It might have even been the last message he sent to Satoshi was like, "Oh, I'm going to go see the CIA," and then he like got no response.
That's right. Yeah,
peace out.
It was like nothing after that.
Yeah, and then Satoshi just put a message on the forum like, okay, the project's in good hands, see you later or something, and it was just out of
I'm
there.
out.
Like, yeah, that's right. And who could blame him, to be honest? So yeah, and that was many years before, but then it was kind of the key point was that then Gavin was trying to scale the blocks and everything starting in 2013, 2014. And it was in that 2014 era where Blockstream appeared, who are sort of tangential to Lightning Labs, but kind of related, where they were started buying up the core developers, and then they kicked out Gavin Andreessen, and they kicked out Mike Hearn, and they started censoring all the Bitcoin, where all the discussion was going on, and all this, so it was already obvious that there's so many shenanigans at work. I mean, it was a testament to the strength of Bitcoin that this was the whoever, we're not going after like node operators. They didn't try and shut down all the miners. They didn't try and ban it or make it illegal. This was the sort of preferred method of attack. This kind of,
it's like if you can't beat them, you got to join them, and then take it over from the inside a little bit, or who knows what happened, but it's that's what it looks like.
Yeah, and it's definitely clear now that at least to some extent the world has been smart enough to route around that. Everybody didn't just fall for it. Obviously, the Bitcoin Cash did keep themselves free by forking off, and that's what I was sort of saying about the parasites part, is that while this has spread around everywhere, it sort of hasn't seeped into BCH, at least not yet, or not to my knowledge. And the proof of that is that the fees are still low. You can still use it. The community still says, not your keys, not your coins. There's no getting distracted with other like irrelevant stuff. It's still Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Everyone will refer you to the white paper. And that's what is quite important. It is the resistance to those kind of interests seeping in is based on the strength of the community. How much do people know independently without needing to be told by Blockstream or Lightning Labs or whatever, to avoid companies that are trying to hinder the network to profit off it themselves, or to capture it in their own way, So because as a result of all this, I just feel like it's inevitable that the Bitcoin Cash side will start getting slowly more and more attention, because people who are on the BTC side, at least some of them at the fringes, will question this stuff and they will dig into it. A lot of them will just get told by the top influencers, nah, it's all fine. I mean, there was some initial outrage about this, but it might just be back to sleep, guys. That might also happen, but it's very critical for our community that everybody is vigilant for this sort of stuff, All
yeah,
right.
for sure. I mean, if the price goes up, then there will be companies trying to do similar things to BCH for sure.
Yeah, and it's up to
some way or form.
Yeah, exactly, and it's up to the community to just protect and guard against that. There's sort of several layers of defense, right? So there's sort of the devs have to be kind of not easy to buy out or to target or to pressure or whatever, which was what happened initially with BTC Core. And then, so, now we have multiple dev teams, so that's harder to do. I mean, it's not entirely impossible, but that's, harder to do. And then community sort of advocacy, independent, platforms like this need to sort of raise the alarm if any shenanigans like that are kind of starting up. And just individuals in whatever way they interact with BCH should sort of be aware of that and try and, get everybody on the same page. A peer-to-peer electronic cash system used by the whole world. It's as simple as that, and it's kind of obvious to just repeat it over and over and over again. But the point is that you need to get that's the ultimate decentralization, right? Is the idea being in as many people's heads as possible, since then they'll all be able to independently converge on whatever is the non-captured version of Bitcoin, if it does need to go through another fork or forks in the future, right? So yeah, that's just pretty critical. And I've just got some more screenshots here in the next slide with people kind of being in various stages of outrage about this. Again, I don't think that will really last. I think for the most part, people will sort of sweep it under the rug. But the market is routing around BTC, it seems. So that's kind of for the best. Okay, so now we've got our community comment of the week. Comes from Ryan Giffin, which is in the same theme as this discussion we've just been having. And he said, a lot of Bitcoiners are in it for the right reason and will be welcomed with open arms with the Bitcoin Cash community when they learn the co-opted nature of Bitcoin. Limiting the block size had nothing to do with decentralization. It's the only way the Fed could stop Bitcoin. And this was in response to Bcashi, who was commenting in the same thread saying, why is a current Bitcoin core org dev working with the Fed to create a CBDC? And I think that's essentially the main point, is that Bitcoin Cash has been here the whole time. And while there is obviously historical animosity and so on and so forth, like, we're welcoming all converts. To be honest, if somebody understands and sees the problems that's happening with BTC, then they should switch, and we're right here for it. So we should be as welcoming as possible. And I think when people see questions or doubts or whatever emerging on forums or in real life or however you interact with those people, there doesn't need to be so much of a "we told you so" angle. It should be more like, hey, come join us then. Like, look, here's an alternative, or welcome. Yeah, I don't know. Just try and be sort of more welcoming. It's more important that we grow our own support base than that we all feel like, we were right the whole time, right? Like, that doesn't help anyone.
Well, yeah. It's it's a sad thing to be right about,
Yeah.
in some ways. So yeah, wouldn't be making a song and dance about it, but yeah.
And I mean that because there are plenty of people who are bought into the actual idea of Bitcoin. I think that's also what Ryan's touching on that I really like, where he says Bitcoiners are in it for the right reason. Like, they understand, they're sort of so essentially, yeah, I mean, the key point is that a lot of Bitcoiners are in it for the right reason. As Ryan says, they've already got this sort of fundamental premises of, be self-sovereign, not your keys, not your coins. Don't trust the government, as much. We're establishing an independent economy. All of those ideas are right there, and it's only that final 5 or 10% difference of the difference between BTC and BCH. And if they a light bulb starts to switch on in that regards, then we should just welcome them straight into Bitcoin Cash. There's nothing to be gained from sort of finger pointing and we were right the whole time. We don't need to make people feel ashamed of being duped or anything, because that's just counterproductive. Ultimately, if those people have got, they've got most of the message, if they want to come to Bitcoin Cash, we should just onboard them as quickly as possible.
There is
basically
one exception, and that is people like Thamos and Cobra and like the influencers in the BTC crowd should be ostracized.
Yeah.
And we should tell them, yeah, we told you so, and we don't want your influence here.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's for the highest profile and the most ardent BTC supporters. Absolutely, we definitely don't need them. They'll come around eventually, because they will have to, because everybody else will be trading in BCH. But we shouldn't just sweep under the rug their long history of advocacy up. I'm talking about the minnows, right? Like the vast majority of people who are not publicly avowed one way or another. Maybe they realize they had it slightly wrong, or even a lot of the people who are on the BTC side who are, sort of outspoken about crypto. They're not necessarily BTC people. They're Bitcoin people, truly. And maybe for one reason or another, they're not big on the Bitcoin Cash train yet, but they can, I can see them. A lot of people could switch without their own, fan bases, or, being like, what are you doing? You completely changed your story. They were not out there saying Bitcoin Cash is a scam, or, don't trust this, or whatever, just for one reason or another. They were with the kind of the main party in BTC. And if they switch and they were not, dug in on one side or another, then we should just be giving them a pass, basically. But for there's going to definitely be, for some of the more inbuilt people, the community should learn and avoid trusting those most toxic individuals, basically.
Well, they'll be shouting the loudest anyway.
Yeah.
It might be a bit hard to shut them up, but yeah, I mean, that's how it is.
And you were saying in 2014.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that was how it was, right?
I mean, like these are all these ideas of Bitcoin being a route around government and being something to free the people, all that kind of stuff. Those ideas were very, very strong in the Bitcoin community back in like 2014 when I was first getting into it. Like that, it was like, we're making a new currency and we're doing it for these reasons. That like, it wasn't really to get rich. I mean, there was obviously an aspect of that, and people thought that they probably would get rich if they had a bunch of Bitcoin. But then, you had other people saying like, oh no, the Winklevosses have bought a whole bunch of Bitcoin for like $1,000. That's crazy. Like, that's way too high. And, it wasn't really about the money. Well, I mean, it kind of was, but yeah.
it was about the money
was
in a
less
non-financial sense.
It was less about the profit and more about the idea of it. And I, over the years, especially with the big bubbles that we've had with like the price runs up and then crashes and runs up and all that, you've kind of, and more mainstream attention, I guess. We've kind of gone away from that. And I guess the BCH community is trying to stay like close to its roots. But yeah, BTC seems to be all about profit at the moment.
Yeah. They're kind of gone, and that's just a critical key thing about it, is that the message has to remain, since Bitcoin's economic value derives from its kind of non-conformist properties, right? And if you chip away at those non-conformist properties, you chip away on its utility, and therefore chip away at its value, and in the long run the project will die, right? So it's very, very important, and that's a huge part of why I started and continue this podcast, is to get those values to as many people as possible. We want people to be coming, compromising towards our position rather than us trying to compromise to get more people in the door, because that's not how it works. We need to just keep moving in the direction of Bitcoin being Bitcoin, and more people jump on as they see that it makes sense, and they kind of come around to that way of thinking. It's not that if we just, it's like if you try to please everyone, you please no one, right? If Bitcoin tries to be, okay, or to be not censored, but amenable to the mainstream, it's just going to have no value at all. So we need to keep Bitcoin.
Well, I mean, as long as it's started and all this kind of stuff, it's like it won't die out as long as it's useful. And I think it is, as the years go on, given like all of the stuff we've seen in recent events. Bitcoin itself, BTC, I don't know, it feels like it's getting less useful. Like you can't, a bit harder to send. I mean, it's useful so long as the price goes up, kind of thing. And if the price is not going up, then it's not really useful to anyone. So yeah, it's a bit odd. I guess we'll see. The block wars kind of continue, don't they?
Yeah, the block sides are in perpetuity until we win or get defeated, basically. What can you do? Accept Bitcoin Cash. Gift Gaff, if you're listening, get with the program. All right. Community comment of the week 2. Usually we only have one, but this week I want to have 2 because last week we didn't get around to this, and I thought it was really important to point out. It comes from Mira Hurley. So on Twitter, Mark Valzon, who has been spreading BCH adoption and, like I said, just got funded with a huge Flipstarter. He posted, "What is going on in here in St. Kitts? All paid for with BCH by a local onboarding legend, Sunny. Hashtag cryptocurrency news." And he had these sort of Bitcoin Cash, it looks like sort of pillows or kind of Bitcoin Cash branded merchandise, and a ton of Bitcoin Cash accepted here stickers. So he has been obviously on the ground, kind of spreading around Bitcoin Cash in the real world in St. Kitts recently. And the comment, the key comment comes from this woman, Mira Hurley. So she replied, "I'm not even into Bitcoin Cash that much, but this is awesome to see. Love to see crypto adoption being spread." And when I saw this, I thought, wow, this is a really, really important comment to see. And the reason is that Mira Hurley, she's big in nano, and she's, you know, one of the biggest sort of nano influencers as it were. And I kind of not really argued, but I've sort of discussed with her a bit on Twitter about, okay, BCH has these elements and Nano has these elements, and she kind of has her, you know, set of arguments for why Nano is the best, like better than all coins, not even just BCH, but all. Obviously she always tries to tag into threads where people are talking about Bitcoin and say, oh, but what about Nano? It's got no fees and it's better for the environment, and like these same 2 or 3 points, right? So I discussed with her about some of those points, and she, you know, she was really like great about it. I'm not saying, you know, that there was any like problem there, but this is pretty key because I think there is several communities smaller than the Bitcoin Cash community, including the Dash community, the Nano community, maybe parts of the Dogecoin community, the BSV community, that are all, again, it's sort of they're on board with the idea. They like digital cash, and if, you know, Bitcoin Cash adoption started popping up in their area, they would just join up, you know, straight away, just because they're like, well, you know, their allegiance to their specific coin is far lower than their interest in the idea. And so in this, you know, I have a very hard time thinking that the Bitcoin Cash community would ever all, you know, agree to swap to Nano, for instance, which is where I think Mira Hurley's kind of got the wrong end of the stick, is that she's fighting a bit of a losing battle. But I can see pretty much the whole Nano community jumping on board with the Bitcoin Cash community. And that's what the whole thing about network effects is so important, you know? So obviously Bitcoin Cash took a huge loss forking off from BTC in the beginning. It was not done lightly, but in the aftermath, we still are the biggest, you know, payments coin, basically, and we just need to stay that way, because as you can see, you know, from this comment, the other, you know, those other communities will take notice if Bitcoin Cash is crushing it, and they will sort of add to the swell of adoption. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that probably the Nano people, they would probably disagree with you and say, no, we're not going to join Bitcoin Cash anytime soon. But I think you're kind of right in theory that if there was a decentralized, you know, currency that was independent of any government, that had low fees, that was actually being used on like a global scale for payments and, you know, between people and all that kind of stuff, I think a lot of people would start to say, oh, like this one is actually pretty cool. Like I'm going to jump on board. I know about crypto. I can get involved. I don't know at what point that would actually happen though. I think it would have to be quite big in itself before that started to happen, I guess. But and I don't think Bitcoin Cash is there yet. But, you know, neither is Bitcoin, neither is Ethereum. None of them are kind of filling that niche now. You know, we're still just using centralized government-backed dollars. So yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting that because at the moment, because cryptocurrency is more of a online phenomenon for a lot of people, not everybody, but for a lot of people, you know, the internet is very good at allowing sort of parallel tribes, right? You can, well, firstly, crypto, you know, you can have a bit of this crypto and a bit of that crypto and a bit of that other crypto. So it's not like a big deal in one sense, but also, you know, everybody can have their own little Twitter threads. They can have their own subreddit. They can have their own forum. They can have their own podcast, you know, and every community can just be doing its little thing, right? Where the rubber sort of meets the road is in real life when somebody wants to pay for something and you have two people who both like crypto, but they like different cryptos. It's sort of like, which one do they end up paying with? Or do they revert back to, you know, fiat currency, right? I've seen it happen before where if you have two people who both like the idea of crypto, but they also are very, you know, set on their coin, they would still rather just like dog somebody else's favorite crypto and try and offer to pay in, you know, British pounds rather than crypto.
Pounds. Yeah.
And especially for the ones that are less convenient to use, you know, and somebody's trying to like give you a whole spiel about, you know, how it should work and blah, 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 set up your lightning node and like whatever, you know, it's just kind of more like, dude, just give me £5 and I'll convert it into BCH myself, you know,
I'll just sort it out. Yeah.
So, you know, I agree. Obviously we're going to have to, you know, get to a critical mass before it really makes a difference. But since BCH is sort of leading that pack in terms of the size, in terms of the market adoption, and all those things, it's just really great to see that we're getting recognition from outside the Bitcoin Cash community for putting in good work, and that will pay off if we can continue that. So yeah, shout out to Mark doing a great job there, and also shout out to Mira for being open-minded to that as well too. Maybe I'll refollow her on Twitter. I did unfollow her because I was just it would be like, what, this same thread about Nano just posted onto my timeline over and over and over again. But maybe she can get back in my
maybe you need to go and check out Nano now.
Yeah, well, maybe I need to go. Oh, great job, Nano guys! Like, yeah. I don't know, where's their pillows? When they've got pillows, maybe I'll be
look for some Nano pillows.
Yeah, they probably exist. I'm probably just not aware of them. Yeah, exactly. All right, and then we got meme of the week coming from Bankless. This one is, I think it is literally a meme. I don't think he actually said this. It's pretty funny that he could have said this. I looked for about half an hour. I tried to find videos of Mark Zuckerberg to see if he had actually said this, but the picture is Mark Zuckerberg in a suit looking like his usual robotic self. And it's like a CNN broadcast or something like that. From New York, and it says live, and it has the little slide that is underneath when you're on TV, and it says who you are and what you're talking about. It says new name for the humans. Zuck renames employees MetaMates. So this was actually a thing. This did actually happen. Zuckerberg has
MetaMates
decided everyone, instead of just being Facebook employees, that's to depersonifying or whatever, so to promote like Googlers, to promote spirit. He's decided his company Meta, so therefore they should all be MetaMates. And the sub heading here says, Zuck renames employees MetaMates, and then in quotes, it was either meat bags or this, and we went with this. Mark Zuckerberg. So it's pretty funny already, because it's like, what is this name, calling your employees meat bags? But I don't know who the hell thought that up, but it's pretty funny. And then Bankless have screenshotted that, or maybe they've edited it, to add this joke in, and they've just put "Good morning meat bags" as their tweet. So it's like pretty funny, especially in the whole context of
new name Zuckerberg, for the humans.
Yeah, Zuckerberg the robot kind of meta. It's a bit of you switch around the letters, you get the meat bags. People as being meat bags. I don't know. This just when I saw this, I just laughed out loud. This is a classic. So Zuckerberg kind of driving his company off a cliff at the moment. I don't know that.
Well, mate, we're gonna have the podcast in the metaverse.
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I have not. Well, tell me about the metaverse, because I've not used the metaverse at all. I don't, as far as I can tell.
Has anyone?
No need. Yeah, like what is going on?
I saw Mark was in it for his ad. That's about it.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen? I know there's one called Decentraland, but I think there's one recently that came out called just Cryptoland. Have you seen this?
No.
Oh,
no,
man.
Not at all.
I'll send you the ad for it after this. It is one of the cringiest ads I have ever seen in my entire life. It's essentially just metaverse, but all crypto themed, right? Their commercials, just very like Nintendo, like me characters on this very shittily rendered island, and there's like this banner there that's I think supposed to be for like an auto dealership or something like that, and it's Nakamoto's. I thought that was kind of clever, but everything else about
they're gonna run out of those
names
pretty quick.
Yeah, the ad was real rough. I know Decentraland is doing like their selling land parcels or whatever, but I feel like that is gonna die. Like if the BTC crowd, and I don't know how like connected they are with the Ethereum or like more metaverse type crowds, but like that phrase, "You will own nothing and you'll be happy." Well, you'll own stuff, but there'll be digital things that other people have control over.
It kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, I can sort of see the angle. Like I really like Ready Player One, which was sort of, that's the idea of the metaverse. If it, in its fully realized form in 15 years or 20 years or whatever. I mean, that is actually a bit dystopian where they are getting a bit wrecked in Ready Player One as well too. But that sort of concept of, okay, you could have, it's been the dream since I was a kid, man. Like we had World of Warcraft and everybody just thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if it was World of Warcraft, but for real, sort of in a head, well, not for real, but for real. In a actual, you could be inside the game. People already definitely have had those ideas. For
I guess, but it's always been like, oh, how can we make the game more immersive? I think that's the difference. It's not like, oh, I actually just want to live in the game like 24/7 and never see anyone, or like even just spend like hours a day. I don't want to play video games hours a day. Like I'm not gonna put on some metaverse headset for hours a day just so I can exist in some digital space. I don't know.
It's not supposed to be a game. It's supposed to be an extension of your life. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's not even a game. Why would I go?
But that's one of those things, right? It's sort of this societal dilemma or whatever, where I can see the argument. I have some caveats about it, but that kind of we already do live in the metaverse to some extent, in the sense that people spend a lot of time on their computers, right? People sit inside in front of their screen hours a day. That's a huge part of their life. They have friends that they've never met, in meat space with the meat bags, all that kind of stuff. Once you add that up, people play video games with, people that they've never met, or they just become, friends in the BCH community, for instance. That's sort of like a low level of the metaverse right there, right?
Yeah, I guess so. It's the low tech version of that. But I kind of like that it's low tech. I don't know. I think a lot of people would agree.
Yeah.
That it's getting a bit much now. Like dial it back a bit. I don't know. Probably the generation below us
they won't care.
They're loving it. And they won't care, and they're all into building their little Roblox cities or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Is this relevant to like the uncanny valley? Like, I know that's more to deal with human styled robots.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have that same kind of impression depending on how immersive the technology is.
Yeah, could be. I mean, I sort of feel the problem I think with the metaverse is there's not a compelling reason for me to get into it kind of yet. And I mean, it's weird for me to say that because I'm one of those people. Obviously, I'm pushing crypto adoption. I think like we should, be on the frontiers of what's new and what's happening and all that sort of stuff. But every time I've looked at this decentralized, it literally just looks like World of Warcraft to me. It looks exactly like that. And
lower quality rendering.
Yeah, some guy has his NFT of his super sword or whatever, and I'm just like, this looks crap. Basically, why would I? This doesn't look fun at all. And maybe I'm just missing it. Maybe it's.
Jeremy, are you single?
Yes, I am.
Get you a metaverse girlfriend. And then,
all right. Well, that is definitely something I don't need.
Tinder in the metaverse. Here we go. Now there's a reason to go on.
Yeah, jeez, that's a bad.
Or maybe you have to check into your job at,
Well, that's
in the metaverse,
right? Yeah, that's where.
I don't know what you're doing there, but like
I've seen arguments that's like we do already work virtually, via Zoom and whatever, right? It's just people saying like, oh, okay, everybody could be in the metaverse having a company meeting, but if you're those crappy little avatars, like I like Zoom where it's actually me, I don't want to be some person without legs and like 2D flat face. Like what is that about?
It's like the Zoom backgrounds. Like
yeah,
you can have whatever background you want in Zoom and you can make it have like flashy colors or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone at my work
one guy at
has
my
done
work
it like
it. But sometimes people do it for gag for like 10 seconds, but nobody leaves it on that because everyone's like,
yeah, well, I've seen people do it as a novelty and just like, oh, I'm going to change it to be, the opera house behind me or something like that. But, no one leaves it like that.
So there was the judge who accidentally left it as a cat, right? And he was like, I promise I'm not a cat. But there's also the VR tubers who just make their whole avatar and their webcam will track their motion to make the motion of the avatar move. But that's been around for like 4 or 5 years. Well, it's been popular for about 4 or 5 years. So I can see people migrating that to a metaverse style. But that's a niche community already.
Yeah. I guess that's the thing. Is this, is Zuckerberg making something that's going to appeal to a very niche community, and the rest of us are going to be like, yeah, we don't use
Ignore it.
Facebook
Yeah.
anymore. Like, all right, mate, have fun with your company, your little pretend world.
Your meat bags, you and the meat bags.
Like, is that what's going to happen? I'm not buying Facebook stock anytime soon. If definitely not. I don't think it's going to work out well for them. But I guess they've got plenty of runway, plenty of money to burn in the meantime.
Yeah,
to figure something out that's gonna work.
Well, I don't know. I think this sort of stuff burns money pretty fast, though. I think
that's
if
true
your
as well.
share price starts tanking suddenly, I think that I saw in one of these articles I was looking up trying to find a source for him if he'd actually said this, because this is the kind of thing I could sort of see him saying. I didn't find a source, but I did find somebody was saying there was some like leaked internal chat logs or something from Facebook of the employees when they got told, okay, guys, I've renamed the company to Meta, and then now I think that was kind of whatever. And then it turned into, well, now I'm going to rename you to MetaMates. And there was some leaked chat log of some, engineer or, social media rep or whoever saying something to, other people, like, guys, are we on a sinking ship here? Is this
well, it's a strange move to publicly come out and say is that what happened? We're renaming employees to MetaMates. I assume that was some sort of publicity thing.
Well, it was an internal thing that
okay.
Zuckerberg announced to everyone, and it turned into an online joke
It's
afterwards.
I mean, I don't know, maybe they're just really hyped about it, who knows, but it does seem a bit odd.
Seems a bit unnecessary.
Seeing as we haven't really seen much more of the metaverse other than that, whatever it was, promotional video that they put out.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's just kind of like the internet. It will be shitty to start. I mean, and probably it's already has improved a lot, and just give it another 5 or 10. I don't know. I just haven't had a compelling reason to get involved. I got a headset and I tried it and it wouldn't let me log into Facebook, and I didn't bother to pick it up again. I deactivated Facebook so long ago, and I tried to reactivate it and it said, you can't reactivate this. It's been too old or something. So then I tried to sign up and then it said, you can't sign up. You already have an account. And I was like, all right, well, guess the metaverse is not for me. Thanks for that, Zuckerberg. Really glad I spent money on that headset. So yeah, I don't know. I think that about wraps up the metaverse for today. So George, tell us, message to the community. Everyone gets a chance who comes on this show, an open platform to talk to the Bitcoin Cash community. Let us know what you're thinking.
Jesus,
what is important? What are they doing well? What are they doing bad? I don't know. What should we be thinking about? What is important?
Jeez. Well, I don't feel like I have any credentials to tell anyone what to do.
What do you mean? You adopted Bitcoin earlier than 99.9% of people listening to this show, mate.
Well, maybe, that was by chance more than anything. But yeah, I don't know. I think in the case of, well, probably the case of most of the cryptos at the moment, you're just going to have to like hold on while things are a bit shit and a bit, low prices and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, that's going to happen. But I'm sure we'll have a huge bull run at some stage and everyone's going to be loving it and getting into it, and there'll be so much hype, and Dogebonk will be back and all that kind of stuff. Message to the community. I guess that's the message to the community. Like, keep on keeping on. You guys are doing a good job. I'm not really involved, but there are a lot of people probably in my position where we just kind of check in every like couple of months. Oh yeah, what's going on? So yeah, keep on keeping on. I'm
There you go. Words of wisdom. That's a long time Bitcoiner for you right there. You just got to play the long game, and in the end, it'll all work out. Yeah, definitely support that sentiment. So that will pretty much do it for the show then. As always, you can send in donations in BCH. You can check out www.bitcoincashpodcast.com for a start guide and the can just clarify to you all of what's going on in cryptocurrency, or you can find FAQs there, all the archives of all the episodes, etc. It's all there. I really want to thank everybody who has donated. It's awesome, and yeah, it really makes my day, even if it's 5 cents. Now a lot of people send me 5 cents, but you know, just when it pops up in your wallet, you're just like, this is the best. I love cryptocurrency. And yeah, shout outs for the show. Is there anybody you want to give a special shout out to, George?
Shout outs to the show. Shout outs to Charles. Our friend Charles. He said he's been listening to a couple of the episodes. So yeah, shout out to Charles if he's listening.
He's also a very, very early Bitcoiner, and he was the one who introduced me to Bitcoin. So this is you know, who all the listeners have to thank for this entire show in the first place. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's
okay. Shout out to him. And Jet, anybody you want to shout out this week? I don't know. You don't want to mention. You don't have any social media or anything. You want everyone to
follow me on Strava. No, no,
all
it's all good.
Okay.
I literally have nothing you can follow, so you know, except Strava. So there you go.
Early Bitcoiner trait number 2. And Jet, any shout outs for the show? Can you hear us? No. Okay. No one. All right. Fair enough. And my shout out goes to Zane and my mate who is in London, who I saw recently, and we had this meal, and at the end of the meal the waitress came over, and you know, we were sort of paying, and I sort of joked, "Oh, can I pay in Bitcoin?" And she said no, but she was kind of a bit interested. So also shout out to her. I think her name was Christina. So I said to her, "Look, can I just tip you then in Bitcoin?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm down for that." So she just got out her phone, and I sent her a little bit of BCH, and it just all, you know, went smoothly like it always does whenever this happens. But it was just great to see that you know, people are more and more receptive to it, right? That kind of idea of currency is getting there. If I tried to do that, well, I think we did try and do that. Remember, there was that guy Luke who used to give us burgers.
Luke,
whatever it was called. Anyway,
shout out to Luke.
Yeah, shout out to Luke.
Definitely listening.
He would have mad regret if he listened to this show, because he could have been in like a boss if he'd let us give him some Bitcoin back in the day. But anyway, he didn't do it. And so here we are 7 years later, and just in that same situation. Instead of it being like a, "What are you talking about?" or "Yeah, you're a bit crazy, I'm not interested." It's like, yeah, no, I think she said, "Oh, I've been meaning to look into this, and I'm really interested, but I just, you know, it hasn't had time, and it hasn't come up to me." And those kind of in-person experiences connect with people so much more than even a Superbowl ad, right? It's just hype on a screen. But when you're there with a real person, and you're like, "Look, this is a free voluntary exchange, and it could replace, you know, British pounds," right? The idea is just, there's more communicated in that 2 or 3 minutes than there could be in, you know, years of hearing about hype and somebody getting rich and whatever, to actually get the idea. So yeah, shout out to Zane and Christina if she's listening. It was great. Yeah, really enjoyed that. So that will do it for the show, I guess. And thank you all for listening. Until next time. We're coming for you, Banks. I wasn't born last night. I know the money ain't right, but I was coding up the future last night. You were busy hating with your stupid friends online. Let the Federal Reserve stealing paychecks straight out of your purse. Today they got $1, tomorrow got 9. Your savings are in dollars and your value in decline. Google it.